took a walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best. Yeah, hey, every day can be a better day despite the challenge. All you gotta do is leave it better than you found it. It's gonna get difficult to stand, but hold your balance. I just say whatever, cause there is no way you're bound.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM. I'm your host, Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
And tonight, as every Sunday night we do, we have a new guest here on the show. Super excited to have him on. You know, we're gonna call him the Love Guru.
The Love Guru.
All right.
Okay, whatever you want. It's your house, not mine.
This guy, he has many names. He does many things. And one of the cool things about the Love Guru here is that he actually has a book. He has a couple books, actually. But he gave me a book, and it's actually, in fact, called Love Guru Vigilante Style. And I want to talk a little bit about the book, a little about himself. But before we get to all of that, Kyle, you know what time it is.
Sponsorship. SNJRadio.com. No negative news, no politics, just feel good music.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about the Love Guru, if you guys want to give him a talk, or maybe you guys have some experiences with him, who knows? He's a well-known guy here in Southern California and Arizona, apparently.
Here's where all my enemies get the chance.
Yes, yes. So if you guys want to give us a call, you guys can call this number.
888-909-1050. That is 888-909-1050.
Awesome. So I actually met the Love Guru not too long ago, back in December 4th. And the only reason why I remember that is because he told me that. So I was like, all right, December
There we
4th,
go.
it is. And we've been going back and forth, talking about a lot of things, actually. And he was like, oh, yeah, you know, I've written a couple books, yada, yada, yada. And I left for the weekend over in February, and I came back, and I had one of his books on my bed. And I was like, this is one of the books that he was talking about. And so I started, you know, taking a peek, started reading it a little bit. And there's a couple interesting things about the book that maybe you can give us some details on.
Oh, okay.
But we don't want to spoil it, right? Because
No. See, you don't. Most people would assume that you write a book for money, for notoriety, or whatever the case is. Now,
Right.
that's the thing. The caveat here is I'm a brain-injured survivor, so I'm one of 7% of the people on the planet that actually survived the injury, right? But then after survival, recovery. So as one of my ideas, you know, like most of us, if we were leveled to zero, we'd go, how are we going to recover ourselves and get back to who we used to be? Well, that's a problem because we are never really going to be who we used to be after the injury. But I couldn't read as a bookworm kid, so I thought, well, maybe if I put it in stone, if I write it, well, that wasn't helping either. So I went through a whole frustration stage, you know, where I'd write a chapter and then I'd have to read the chapter to write number 2. And, you know, it was a challenge to write a book. And I've been doing this since 2010. So 2011, the challenge came about to create a book, a biography that we did for a gentleman named Brian Warren. It was, he was an MMA fighter and I thought he was retired. And so I went to go do an article because my mentor in writing, David M. Anthony, a prize-winning screenwriter, had come alongside of me to help me with my writing because, as you know, you go find a mentor, right? Somebody that's a little better at what you do to help you, and you can further, Well, it was true. He liked my stories. He took a little time just to kind of show me, you know, what he did as a screenwriter, but completely different. All I wanted to do was write novels. I'm like, I don't want to write articles and this, that. I want to write stories. I've always been a storyteller type person, indigenous background, so storytelling's a big deal, you know, in indigenous cultures and oration and all of that.
Right.
So the goal was to create a book in 2011, like you could pull it off the shelf. I mean, it had to be perfect. It couldn't have more than 3 mistakes. It couldn't, right? So, long story short, we did it. The 3 of us came together. The guy the biography was on, the writer, and then, of course, the producer, myself. And then I got to see the process. After that, I went back and created some of the stories into book form and so forth. And so I don't follow traditional mainframes in a lot of my books. I have a memoir coming up that will actually tell my story of the brain injury and recovery and give you even fragmented pieces of what I was going through. So you can read through it and kind of go, man, that guy was really messed up. Or is, well, whatever.
Yeah.
But this one came about in 2016, and I was going through, the stages. I was going through some stuff. And originally, that was supposed to be, Love Guru Vigilante Style was supposed to be the precursor for my own show. And the thought was, the ladies always take it, right? The ladies always, back in my day, Dr. Ruth, and we had the other gals on other radio stations in LA and so forth, and it was always a gal. But what if, and this was the prompt that I used for this book, what if a guy took the hot seat, got in the middle of all of that stuff, right, and took the hot seat? The other part of it is not knowing at some point if I was going to survive the brain injury bumfuzzle. I mean, I'd have 5 bad brain days, 2 good ones. I'd up and down. Some, do you get better? Do you get worse? Yeah, a lot of people do shoot themselves. Because they just can't communicate. They can't get out there. But the communication aspect is the recovery part of it. Instead of putting yourself in a box. But at this point, I was like, oh man, I'm a dad with 3 daughters and a granddaughter, and what am I going to leave behind? Like dad talk to the girls, right?
Oh, okay.
So some people have asked me about this book when they've read it. Was that a love story? I go, well, it wasn't really intended to be.
Right.
It was intended to really show the pitfalls of love and kind of give my daughters an idea of what not to move toward.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it has, there's a lot of other purpose and reasoning for why I write and why I do it the way I do it. And he has read some of it.
I think it's very interesting when someone talks about love. If you were going to give them to a person to know it all, or think they know it all, you usually give it to a woman, right? But for the man to be in the hot seat, now that seat's even hotter, right?
Yeah.
And what I think is funny is that when you were telling me when you finished up the book and you need someone to review it and make sure there's no wrong edits or just their thoughts on it, you give it to your daughter. So now it's like it's a woman's perspective on the thoughts of a man's perspective about love, right?
Right.
Okay, so let me jump in. Let me give you some history. So my first love story was called So What About Love? And I was so proud of completing the thing. Just a sense of accomplishment, brain injury stuff, right? Accomplished the first love story. And I gave it to my older daughter. She's 37 now. But when I gave it to her, she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. One, she was mad at the ending that I created because I created a reality that not everybody ends up this way. They kind of can end up dead. So she didn't like that. And number 2, she was like, I didn't know you knew anything about that. Well, you'd have to read the book to know what that we're talking about. But I created a very vivid picture of 2 people coming together where one wouldn't have known love if it whacked her over the back of the head, and he really didn't like her type of people.
Oh, okay.
And when they end up together, sparks fly.
Okay.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you can get into here.
Yeah.
But it's very, very vivid depiction.
Yeah. And, we all went through some type of experience about love,
Right.
Maybe we're in it, maybe we're out of it, maybe
Running from it.
don't want to be in it.
That's a good. That's a good one. Yeah.
So, as the love guru, I'm going to come back and ask the question you ask and say, well, what about love?
So, what about love? Well, why I picked that subject is because obviously you can never, ever know everything about it. And as a guru, one of the things all gurus understand is that he who knows not knows all.
Okay.
So part of longevity is learning, growing, taking in someone else's opinion, someone else's, all of it. right? And kind of being that person that just kind of sits back and I wouldn't say be a non-voice or non-vocal.
Right.
I mean, like a sponge, right? But just taking it in and realizing that you don't know everything. Now, some of my experience from my brain injury stuff, where I was trying to write stuff, is I was interviewing centenarians from our Loma Linda area, and most people that aren't from here would understand Loma Linda as the blue zone, where the most 100-year-old people live, people that live to be 100, centenarians. And so I interviewed about 50 of them, and I used to joke around with people and say, if the Lord doesn't come back, I'm going to live to be 120. And they'd laugh, that's funny. Why is that funny? I actually want to be here, and especially as I was talking to Kyle before the show started, in all the different things that I've been involved in life, I feel I've lived almost 3 lifetimes in one. I've been a near miss person most of my life. I mean, the plane that went down over here, I was supposed to, I had orders cut for that one. I should have been on that plane. Or, again, we'll get all the way to the brain injury. Head first into a guardrail off of a mountain bike on a windy 60-mile-an-hour night. And I woke up at Loma Linda in the head trauma unit to these lights,
Yeah.
as a hallway patient on a busy December when you have a lot of car accidents and stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm just happy to be here, and you don't get that. I could have been frustrated and gone the other direction, and people that are grumbling and they just don't, get off the planet, man.
Right.
That's the nicest way of saying
Just
it.
make
Yeah.
room for the rest of us, that have a smile on our face, and but I mean, the reality is you got love on them too, because I've been that
Yeah.
person. I've been in deep pain, several back injuries, a couple of stuff before that, all of that stuff, cancer, you name it. So I have been in those modes, and I understand too why people are there, and you can be emotional pain, trauma, physical, all of that. So I mean, maybe if somebody finds some joke or something to laugh about that I have to say or do or whatever, or if they just find me flat irritating and say, get out of my house, that's all right. I get it.
So would you say that you're a spiritual person?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Now,
so I got
from
a question
atheism.
for you.
So you're going to have a lot of questions now, because
Okay.
I was okay, background. I had a total recall memory gift before my accident, which means I could look at you and in 3 seconds, right, after 3 seconds, I could draw you like a black and white photograph. So my skills in the military were utilized to become a protection specialist for a general to be. You had guy on the right with a photographic memory, me on the left with a total recall memory gift.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay.
I really had to struggle with I'm not who I used to be, if you can imagine.
Right. Okay. So my question for you is, like, with all the things that you've been throughout life, when did you realize that you were here for a purpose?
Oh, wow. See, I'm stupid like that. Okay, people will ask me, or they'll say, hey, Dan, you're pretty smart. I'm like, no, I was stupid at least 3 times.
At least 3 times.
Okay.
I like that.
So I'm that guy. I hard-headed.
Yeah.
I grew up an art, music, introvert kid, only kid. Mom couldn't have any more children. She would have had 10. Irish, German, lover of all animals and people, man. She was that person. My dad, staunch, traditional, indigenous and Mexican man that, you don't say you love your kid. They got to figure it out.
Right.
And so
okay,
you
yeah.
had these two polar opposites. So I was always like, what in the world? Why? How did these two get together? The only people that looked like my mom and dad were Ricky and Lucy on TV on the Lucille Ball Show.
Yeah.
And every other kid in my class and stuff was chasing me down because I was the different kid.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So it brings a level of, right? You
Yeah.
either grow from that or you hate everybody, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I wasn't. I mean, my mom was a hard shell Baptist lady that kind of fell out of that whole thing, and my dad was supposed to be a Catholic priest.
right.
And again, how did they get together? Well, Dad was a mariachi singer. Mom was a backup country singer for George Jones and Merle Haggard.
Really?
So the golden fiber of music,
Oh,
right?
you know what they say? Music brings people together.
It does. And so all my life I was just, into, okay, like for instance, Sam, if I were to speak to him, he's 25, he's got kind of a success program, right? Like you like to interview people that are moving toward or have some idea of what success might be.
Right.
I was that. I had my business, I had a financial business attached to it. I was kind of hurt by relationships and stuff, so all I did was just work, right? I wasn't going to work on relationship. I was just going to work, and then maybe somewhere at the end of all of that, I'd have money and the girl and right, like that, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so that was kind of the way my life was going, and there was this group of people. Now, granted, let me get back into this thing about me being a theologist as an atheist. A total recall memory gift, you have to stuff your brain. There is no such thing as too much information.
Right.
So you constantly have to stuff your brain with stuff. So whatever religion you were, I had the doctrine under my belt and in my brain
Okay, gotcha.
after having read it once. And so I was that kind of person, that kind of antagonist, You people out there, you're a bunch of idiots. Anybody with a God is ridiculous, right? So this group was at this coffee house that I would go to in a local area where a lot of the people that were stars and stuff in LA, and they didn't want to live in LA, so they lived in this little pocket out in Riverside. And so I was always at this coffee house with my clients. And this leader of the group, asked me to lunch, and I'm thinking, I'll take lunch with these people. I'll take their lunch, right?
Yeah.
And the leader of the group, she was a really nice looking Cherokee lady, but right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Just kind of, I don't know. The involvement with these people amounted to me stirring them up. I knew the doctrine. A lot of them were brand new. I'd flip them, this way, that way, backwards, and feel a sense of control. That's what that is when people
Right.
do that.
Okay.
I've got control over you because I can, have you spin off in another direction. Well, it's kind of funny. About 6 months down the track, once a month for 6 months, he pulls me outside the coffee house, away from everybody, does it right?
Yeah.
And says, "Are you ever gonna, put God in your life?" And I stood there and I went, "Wow, I have an answer for everything." But not that. And people will say what they want to about this. Even Christians that were around me at the time said God does not speak to people like that. The sound drowned out, and I heard a voice say, "What are you going to do?" And went, looked at her and said, "Did you hear that?" And she goes, "Hear what?" And I was like, and there's this thing, okay?
Yeah.
As the atheist dude, this is how I antagonized people. That's why this is key. That guy Peter has a net. He's got a job for 30 years. And he has a family, and he's going to walk away when some heretic walks up and says, "Follow me," 2 words, right? You guys are idiots.
Oh, okay.
Now, what I will tell you today is there is a sound, a creator sound over its creation, and you just know, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I was an atheist, you couldn't tell me any of that. I'd be
Right.
like, "You people are crazy."
It was one of those things you had to experience.
So, yeah, it flipped the way I looked. And ultimately, this is what it did for me. Everybody wants to know, what is God going to do for you? You know what? I treat people different.
yeah.
It used to be the money man, Dan. By the way, yeah, Dan is my name, right? So the money man would be like, I'd qualify people right away. "Oh, this guy's young, 25. He doesn't have any money in his pocket." Boom, I was gone. I was the other direction, man. If you didn't have money, I would forget it. I'm not talking to you.
Right.
And so that's all I did. "Oh, I'm busy. I got other things to do. I got money to make and people to see." And after that experience, I started to engage people more and get
Okay.
into, so becoming instead of so self-centered, I started becoming others-centered. Now, I'm not saying you don't look out of these eyes and you can't help but be a self-centered person. Yeah,
Right.
you've got that part of it. But when you wrong somebody or you do something, you actually do seek out forgiveness, if you will, or an apology. You apologize, you do something. Some things I wouldn't do before. I would just onward, next person. And so you do. You just treat people different. And for me, you take the 2 lives, I wouldn't give this half up. And that lady, no kidding, that did that other than my mother, that lady that changed my course by presenting that question, we were in a garden today, gardening and digging up the earth and stuff
today?
and having a beautiful day.
Oh, wow.
Recently got reconnected, and I just like, man, she doesn't know how much I feel I owe her, for this life. This is so much better than the kind of empty, lonely, atheist life I used to live.
You should present that conversation one day. I think it'll be interesting for you. Because I had that conversation. I had a similar story. Not exactly the same, but I had a similar story where I talked to that person and I said, "Hey, you have no idea what you brought to me." And he turns to me and he goes, "You have no idea how much it means to me that you know now."
Well,
And so,
yeah, it's kind of like if you don't have one, you don't have the other.
right.
You don't
So-
have the reason.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
Right. So we all fill a space. I mean, even when we don't think we. Yes. What?
Come closer.
Oh, I'm not loud enough. I'm usually pretty loud. I'm trying to keep it down. I was a trumpet player most of my life, so
Oh, okay.
horn players are always loud and obnoxious.
They got those lungs.
Oh yeah, still.
So you write books. You play music. You said you. Would you play?
Yeah, art music kid.
Art
The
music kid.
gold, like we were saying, golden fiber of art. I used to have to be in the mood. Those things like musicians are like that too. Oh, I got to be in the mood, or I got to get smoked up, and before I can
Right.
do all this.
okay.
It's like, no, you live it all the time. And so art is your relationship you have with Sam, the relationship you have with your audience. It's all art.
Right.
I have a question for you. So, you're in the car, you're listening to music, listening to the radio, song comes on. When music plays, do you listen to the melody, the instruments, or the lyrics, or how do you listen to music?
Well, one, I ride a motorcycle and I purposely don't have speakers on it. That's funny.
But when you do listen to
Yeah,
music,
I separate everything out. It's called musician's ears. It's like if I want to listen to the bass guitar, that's all I'll listen to. Like you're tracking. You know how you track stuff, right? And track it in?
Yeah.
I'll listen to what I want.
Oh yeah. No, I do the exact same thing. Yeah.
yeah, because it's interesting. Because with me, I kind of just feel
You feel the vibration,
the
the beat.
music.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times I'll be listening to music and I don't even know what I'm listening to. And my mom's always like, "What are you listening to?" Because it's not good music. Like if you listen to the lyrics, I'm like, dang, that's actually, I shouldn't have played that in front of my mom. Like I don't even know why I'm listening.
Right.
And like with people who, when it comes to listening to music, it kind of tells a lot about a person. So if you're a person like me, who's just head bobbing and just going for the vibe of the music, well, that's kind of like how you live your life. You're just going with the motion. People who listen to the lyrics or who like hear the instruments or who are really paying attention to what's actually being played,
Yeah.
because what you do to one thing, you do to most things, right? So a person who pays attention to the actual song and the music and the lyrics actually pays attention in life of what's going on, like quote unquote, like the details, And as a musician, like now that's even a deeper effect because, I mean, we're talking about music itself.
Well, let me give you an example of what happened, the brain injury part of it, right? Let me explain. Before, with that total recall memory gift, I could read a chart and I'd never have to read it again. I knew everything on the chart. Now, I got the opportunity to do a little jazz gig out in Fullerton, right, with a group,
Yeah.
RH. I really do improvise the music and really feel it, and I think that's a good place to be. That's like what it's supposed to be. If I don't connect with you emotionally in a book, in the way that I write, or how it's delivered, it means nothing. Right? The rest of it's just all technical ability. I can draw you like a black and white photograph. So what? Take a picture. Why spend 3 hours on your face? I don't want to do that.
21st century.
I mean, it's a nice round face. I like it. But hey, you start looking at people different, right? And if they know, they get freaked out. It's like, oh yeah, your ear. Let me look at you. This side's heavier than that side, and your eye's a little droopy over there.
Oh, you noticed that?
And this ear, yeah. See, look, you start getting self-conscious, about it. Like the guy, the tech guy back over there, he's got his hair, it's going this wave, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess it's a new haircut. That's what they're saying. I go, what was the old one? This one looks good, but what was the old one?
Bro, he used to braid his hair. That's what I'm saying.
Right?
He's like a Viking. No, I'm just kidding, Joe. I'm just kidding.
Tribal guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, see, that's tribal cultures. Mm-hmm. What's funny is we're all that.
Yeah.
We're all part of a tribe.
Ultimately, we're tribal and forged. What's your background?
My background, well, I'm half Spanish, half French.
Mutt. Okay, what about you? No, I say it like that. There's a story behind everything I say. Go ahead.
Well, I usually tell people that I'm Asian and white. But obviously, I got some Indian in me. I got some Spanish in me because of the Spaniards, things like that.
Yeah.
Funny story, and my brothers, they both took 23andMe, right? The little swab or the blood thing, whatever, to see like what percentage of what you are, and they both have well over a dozen percentages. However, we're all blood related, but there are parts of my oldest brother that my middle brother does not have. So like my middle brother has like French in him, but my oldest brother doesn't have any French, and like my middle brother has more Asian than my oldest brother, even though my oldest brother looks Asian. Like he's the short, dark-skinned Filipino Asian boy, but in the 23andMe, it's different.
Hey, we're mutts and he's a chopped Asian chicken salad.
So they call it. All right, you guys, it is half hour past 7 o'clock, even though my clock says 6:30. It's daylight saving times. I hope you all are being safe out there. We're going to take a 5-minute break, but when we come back, we're going to continue talking to Dan, the love guru, and we're going to jump a little bit more about his book and what's in it. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Feeling good, like I should. When in dark, walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday bed.
From the Bureau of Economic Geology, this is Earth Date. Take a moment to look at your hands. Move them around and watch how the bones work. Think about what your hands have done in your lifetime alone. They learned to write. They drove your first car. Took the hand of the person you'd marry. They work every day in an office, shop, or laboratory. And they held or will hold your children for the very first time. Your hands will touch every part of your time on Earth. But the minerals that make them up are eternal. The calcium in the bones of your hands is older than the Earth itself. It formed after the Big Bang through supernova explosions and became concentrated in rocky planets. Once on Earth, it may have spent 500 million years drifting in seawater or passing through generations of ancient sea creatures. 200 million years more in the age of dinosaurs, making up the bones of tyrannosaurs or the eggshells of pteranodons. Your calcium then journeyed through 100 million years of mammals, finally pausing for a geologic split second to form your hands. After your hands have held their last cup of coffee or played their last song, no matter how your remains are disposed of, your calcium will one day re-enter the Earth. Who knows where it might end up next? Perhaps it could pass through the bones of generations of future humans, one of whom just may take a tiny part of you once again to another galaxy. I'm Scott Tinker, and thanks for listening.
Earth Date is produced by the Bureau of Economic Geology at the University of Texas at Austin. Earth Date is researched by Julie Hennings, written by Harry Lynch, and distributed by Mark Blunt and Casey Walker. For more stories, follow us on Facebook or visit earthdate.org.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau Diarco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E, B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com. Or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
In these trying times, many people are depressed and lost because the future of our society is up in the air. If you're turning to substance abuse because you're feeling there is no hope, we have a way for you to see the light. SAD, or Stop Abusing Drugs, is a nonprofit organization that will help you at no cost to you stop abusing drugs. Founded by Tony Navarchi, SAD will refer you to the top detox doctors in your area. SAD will pay every and any cost for you, including doctor visits, counseling, and medications. If you need help, SAD is there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you or a loved one needs help, or if you have a suggestion or idea for Tony, you can reach out to him by calling 844-493-3386. That's 844-493-3386. Or email Tony at tony@saddetox.com. That's Tony at SADDETOX.com.
Hey, Southern California, you know what's going on. It's my new hit show, The Scene with Doreen, and I'm your host, Doreen Taylor. Join me every week as I chat with my celebrity friends from TV, movies, music, theater, sports, and everything in between. We explore the lives and careers of some of the entertainment industry's biggest names, with some fun surprises, too. Tune in to The Scene with Doreen Tuesdays at 7 a.m. on KCAA Radio, 1050 a.m.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best. Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Sunday. You're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM. I'm your host, Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
And tonight, if you guys are just tuning in, we have a special guest. His name is...
The Love Guru.
There you
The
go.
Love Guru.
And if you guys are just tuning in and you want to go back and listen to the first half of the show, it's pretty good. You get to learn a little bit about the Love Guru and his own personal life. The second half, we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about the book that he wrote and all the other fun things I'm going to ask him tonight. So before we do all that, Kyle, you know what time it is.
SNJRadio.com. No negative news, no politics, just feel good music.
And if you guys want to call in, if you have any questions, you can call this number.
888-909-1050. That is 888-909-1050.
So his book is very interesting, and the reason why I say that, not only because it's about love, the vigilante style, it also doesn't have a table of contents. It doesn't have page numbers. It doesn't have chapters. It just has the story. And I guess the first question for you, Mr. Guru, why is that?
Well, as you've been reading, see, traditionalists, well, they won't even look at it. They get stuck right away. I love that. Because if you want to expand your mind a little bit, listen to what Sam Works has to say about the flow of the reading of this story.
So, basically, it has a flip. on your thinking. One, because you know, when you have a book that has pages and chapters, you kind of finish up based off the chapter or based off how many pages you read, right?
Right.
So as someone who goes, hey, I'm going to read 10 pages a day, every day, well, then they're going to read and count how many pages they read, and eventually they're going to stop, right? And that loses your focus on the story, on the emotional attachment, on everything. You know, on the other hand, you know, you're reading a book that doesn't have any chapters, right? And you're reading, and you get lost in the book, which is a good thing. But then you're like, oh man, how many chapters, or how many chapters do I have left? Or, you know, like, did I read my 10 pages and this and that? So it kind of throws you for a loop. It's very interesting, but it helps you get into that flow mindset of reading the story, you know?
So the little, instead of an profile picture like most my books have, you know, I'm on with a little wireframe glasses and my little tweed jacket looking like some author. This one, I don't know if you can see that, but probably not. But it's basically a filter where I'm, and the cover too. My Danielle, my daughter, does the covers and some of my editing and a lot of the work on these books since she was 14 years old. But this one in particular has me in the Scream position, kind of tormented, right?
Yeah, that's
and
what I
so
was gonna say. It looks like Scream.
yeah, as he's saying that, I'm seeing him going, "Oh my God, what do I do?" But you know, he did really good. I mean, he got this far in the book. Where are you
A
at?
little more than halfway, for sure. And I'll tell you. Let me tell you how much I've read, okay? Because I didn't finish it, right? So I'm gonna leave a little cliffhanger unless Mr. Guru here wants to finish it up.
Mm-hmm.
But before I talk about the story, I want to talk about my perspective about the story. Okay, a little background. If you just want to take a brief moment to talk about the whole main story. So it's a radio guy, right? Just like what we're doing now. And he's the love guru, and people call in during his show, and he asks the question. What's the question?
So what about love?
Yeah, he asked the question.
So like we're doing now, anybody out there that wants to call in, call in. If you have the number, please do.
888-909-1050. That is 888-909-1050.
It'll all be a relationship topic conversation from this point
Yes.
out.
So it's this radio guy who you know takes calls, and he's like, so what about love? And everyone has a different story or experience or a relationship with love, and he talks about good, bad, you know, things like that. And he starts getting attached to these callers. And in the beginning of the book, you know, he's just cranking them out, boom, 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 to kind of like show the experience, like, hey, I'm taking callers, you know, it's a fast pace, things like that. And then he starts to get into these callers who call back, and it's the same people sometimes, because people want to know, like, hey, what happened in this scenario? Oh, you came back. Did anything different happen?
Right.
And one of the first crazy, like, turn of events is that this lady, she calls in, he's like, what about love, da-da-da. And she's like, hey, you know, if my man comes in and hears me talking to another guy over the phone, he's going to beat me. And exactly that happens.
Wow.
He comes in and he was like, who are you talking to? And then he gets really aggressive and like beats her on the air.
Into the corner on live radio. Imagine that.
Yeah. And let's, you know, this is a this is just a book. This is a story, right? So I'm not sure if this actually has real events or not. It might. I don't know.
It might, yeah.
But anyways, so that gets the story going, right? And then another woman calls maybe a week later, and she's like, oh, my daughter's been kidnapped, right? And that's when he starts turning in. So the vigilante style, that's where it starts to come in, because now he's pretty much Batman at this point. He's like, okay, this lady's daughter's got kidnapped, okay? And he starts to pinpoint, okay, she called from this city, this and this, and like getting all this information, right? Like he's a detective. And he eventually finds the kidnapper.
Wow.
At a grave. He was going to bury her alive.
Which he's already buried two
Right.
that are dead right next to the gravesite.
Right. This kidnapper is known as like whatever kidnapper. He's known in the city, right? Finds him, kills him, Okay, gets back on the air. She calls back and she's like, "Oh my gosh, my daughter came back. Like, whoever killed this guy, he's a hero." Da 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 da. Gets another call, and it's a police officer, and they're like, "Well, one murderer is dead, but now there's another murderer out there. So we still have to get justice for that's why he's a vigilante, right?
Yeah.
Because he saved the girl, but now he's a murderer. Okay, so now we start getting in deep. So in the book,
Keep on going, man.
in the book, the pace it starts to get a little faster pace, but you get more of a connection between the characters, right? Because now there's this one particular character that this lady. Okay, this is a crazy. Okay, the things that you think you make up or the things that you think about are insane. So this woman, right, calls in and she's like, "Oh yeah, I have not one, not two, but like 3 people. It's kind of like a game where they can find me anywhere out in the public or whatever, and they can basically, like rape me,
What?
for fun as a game." And he was like, "Hey, you might want to be careful because it get,
With
it
my
might-
former law enforcement detective background, he has ability. This is the way this ends, and this isn't a good way for you to
Right.
go. So he's trying to help in a sense by advising the right things, but people are calling with all that dirty and all that
right. It
all
gets-
they're crazy.
So so he feels really good and fulfilled that he saved a girl's life, right? So now this other girl is kind of calling for help without really saying it, and he's like, "Well, maybe I can help her." So he finds her, and it's his little secret. He doesn't want to tell everybody that he is the love guru on the radio, right?
Right.
So he's trying
Called jail, and jail's not fun. I have to tell you.
So
that,
he's
isn't it?
he's playing this little game, and so this girl goes out about her day, and this guy playing the game because she calls back and like, "Hey, they're getting a little more aggressive. It's getting worse." And he's like, "Okay, you need to somehow stop this." Well, eventually he's out there, and she gets beat up, unconscious, and he finds her and he picks her up, takes her to a motel, and starts taking care of her. Well, she's never been taken care of by a guy like that before, and she's feeling some type of weird emotions because it's new to her. And he's like, "Why do I care so much about this one particular woman?" Like he's actually taking care of her, he's with her,
Yeah.
da 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 da. And then he goes back, he's doing his show, and she calls back in, and she's like, "Man, like, if this guy's listening, like, meet me at dinner, XYZ." So he goes back, he meets with her. She doesn't know that he's the love guru.
Right.
Well, he goes back at the radio station. They have their dinner. They have fun. He later finds out that she got murdered. And he is heartbroken by it. He's thinking to himself, could I have done something to, like, stop that? Or what could I have done sooner? Or, like, why did this happen?
Right.
So now this is where the gun goes off.
See, we were talking about part 2, like in the second act, the school of screenwriting and stuff, as I was taught by my mentor, right, is the gun goes off. You don't mention a gun and not have it go off. So at the end of the second act. But something to say about that is that, he isn't doing any of this stuff. He's being drawn. That's a key point. It's just like, he's not Batman. He's not going in there and going, "Hey, I'm the hero and I'm doing." No, he doesn't want to be. So he's dumb. He's stupid. He's not a smart guy. He's stupid. He's getting drawn into these scenarios, and that's kind of the thing. He's not smart. He's being pulled.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Continue on there with that book. Did I write
So,
this thing?
so now he's heartbroken. He really is. He fell
Yeah.
for this woman. He could have saved her, and he found out over like the newspaper or something that she died.
He pulls a newspaper like the next morning after they've been talking or whatever, and he pulls it, and it's like, it's a couple of days later.
Right.
And he was going to try to get to her before everything fell apart,
And he just didn't do
and
it.
he
quick
missed
enough.
it.
Yep.
You know,
And so now he's like, why am I, like, should I even be doing this? Like, why? Like, no one said, hey, I can't talk to my callers. Because, like, some jobs, they have, like, a rule out there, like, you can't date your employees,
Right.
things like that. He's like, so no one made a rule where I can't talk to my callers, And so that's why he kind of like fell into that, because there was no objection towards it, right?
How much is too little? How much is too much? He's trying to figure it out.
Right.
But the basis of the way I was writing that to get the reader drawn in to like, what would I would have done?
Right.
Because so many times in one of my former careers did I see a report where somebody drowned in a pool and there were 50 people at a party, or someone had been raped and there were people there that could have stopped it. And so I had that bug under me as I was writing that. That was like, I want the reader to kind of be provoked into like, what would I have done? Just pulled my phone out and
Record it.
or get engaged.
Yeah.
Engage, right? Involved, right?
And so this other reporter, right, he goes out and he starts talking to her, and she's like, look, dude, you're the last person that's been hanging out with her recently. Like, turn yourself in, because we all think you're the one that killed her. And he was just trying to find out, like, what happened. But because he was building this relationship with her and then all of a sudden gets killed,
Right.
now all the fingers are pointed towards him. So,
And remember, he's already got the serial killer murderer,
Yeah.
by the way, chopped into pieces in the little grave that the little girl was supposed to
Right.
go into. Hoorah.
hoorah. So now he's just digging himself even deeper.
Yeah.
But in the eyes of the public, they think this guy is the one who killed her. When in reality, he just cared so much about her. He just wanted to know who did it, what happened, and maybe try to retaliate against whoever killed her. Now, that is about half of the book. So who knows what happens now? I did read. Well, I know that that reporter, for some reason, which I feel like is a real thing, has the hots for him, right? Because that saying, oh, like nice guys finish last, or like these girls always date the bad guy, you know?
Right, yeah.
Like, for sure that is a thing that happens in real life where it's like, ooh, dangerous, but that's also a dangerous situation and a dangerous mindset, branching off
Right.
here, but kind of sticking to the subject. I know a woman who's dating someone really close to me, and her boyfriend used to abuse her, like physically abuse her, okay? The person who's close to me will never, ever, ever do that. However, because she had that, and it's almost like a feeling of excitement because she survived death, getting abused, like her body, like that's why people like roller coasters, because your body's freaking out thinking it's going to die, and then you survive and you're like, ooh, what a thrill.
Yeah.
So it's that almost like a chemical imbalance. And she went through that over and over and over in her past relationship. So now she's in this relationship where this guy's literally taking care of her, and she's like basically saying like, hit me, like do something, like make me feel alive, like you're boring, And so like relationships get in a sticky situation when you've had trauma in your past relationship,
Right. Now, granted,
Joe.
you got rats in here? What? They can join the conversation. They fall in love too, They know how to do it right though.
That's true.
Wow.
Yeah,
I hope
truly.
the people who are listening can't hear this. I mean, they probably do. They probably can't hear this. But anyways, trying to move on, trying to focus forward here.
It's got it
What
faster.
were you saying, Dan?
I don't know. I was thinking about rats doing the thing. I still woo. Yeah. Well, no kidding. Okay. And I don't know how well you can see the wrinkles on people's faces or whatever on air. I know that if you turn the lights up, it helps make us look younger. That's what you do.
Hint, hint.
Less shadows. But I'm a 60-year-old guy, and people look at me and I haven't really messed myself up too much in life with, stuff that, and okay, fine, what everybody does, but I identify with 46. And so oftentimes people, will be like, oh, well, you're, I'll test them, how old am I? And don't be kind. And they'll be, oh, probably like 46, 50 maybe. But, I've been around a little bit. And like I tell my daughters, the same thing is I'm not smarter than you. I've just had a little bit more time on the planet, and that provides you with perspective,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't mean you have to listen, you have to do, none of it doesn't mean any of that. It's that when you go to write something, I mean, you got to know that I write reality fiction. I'm going to leave it there. The reason the 5 or 10% that's fiction is the way I wanted the story to bend or move or whatever. But a lot of the things in my life that I've either seen, been part of, not the glory days either, you know, whether it was right, wrong, or ugly, but that's what goes into my stories. Because I want you to emotionally connect
Yeah.
in that scenario. Like the gal that got beat on live radio, I want to deal with that. I want to deal with that. And she comes back, and what he doesn't say is the show host meets him in an alley and whacks him over the head with a baseball bat and makes it look like a robbery. And she calls up the next day, "Oh my God, my husband was in a robbery." And you know, he off mics her, right? And he's got his assistant, and he's like, "What the heck is wrong with people? What is wrong with people?" And she comes back, "Nobody else to torture but each other." You know, some of the things I say in there are the realities of what people experience. That's what I would say. So they really, whether you understand them to be real or fiction or whatever, they're 95% real stories and real things that I've had in my life. Yeah. In my first love story, So What About Love, the entire epilogue is a commemorative to a couple that was really good to us when we were in the military. They were the young couple at 35, 40 years old that would, invite us for Thanksgiving and stuff when we didn't, weren't going to get home or whatever. And they were amazing, man. And so that epilogue is written, the protagonist has a massive heart attack and leaves the female protagonist alone, but she did finally discover love. And so the last poem that's written, he was the writer, she's turned into a poet, and she's able to write him, you and I, and talk about how even though he's not there, the glass is still full.
Gotcha.
Meaning she discovered love, knows what it is, and knows what to look for now. Right? So, yeah, I mean, really.
These are some deep connections.
Well, again, I wrote him thinking of my daughters, right?
Right,
The female characters. I get asked often. In fact, he didn't ask it. How do you write a female character? And immediately I think of my house with 4 girls, the dogs were girls, the plants, I swear, were girls, grass, everything had to be, so I'm an honorary girl. And I do eat chocolate like that too. I'm a
ice cream when you're sad.
Oh God, I'm a mess.
Ice cream when you're happy.
Why not?
That's sugar's bad for you.
So you're getting down to the wire. Come on, man. What?
Really? 1 minute.
See, how did I know that?
Well, look, guys. If you guys want to know what happens to the love guru at the end of this book, his book's on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
His book's on Amazon. What else is it on?
You can look under my pseudonym, which is Blake Devine, Devine, and original books by Dan Arrow, Arrow was my first, because that's kind of my name. And so the pseudonym will lead you to some of my other interesting love stories and novellas.
And he answers all his emails. So if you read a book and you're like, yo, this, has questions about the book or comments or concerns, you can always, he's only a phone call away. So thank you, Mr. Guru, for coming on the radio.
Yep.
Well, you're very welcome. It's nice to know you.
Yes, sir. We'll have you on pretty soon. But hey, guys, take care. Happy Sunday, and stick around for Ron at 8 o'clock.
It's okay. It's okay. Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.
Southern California's Mind Spring. The legends you love and the best talk.
KCAA Loma Linda. KCAA Loma Linda. KCAA Loma Linda.
And now, the voices of KCAA with an exciting announcement.
Want to hear NBC News or KCAA anywhere you go? Well, now there's an app for that.
KCAA is celebrating 25 years and our silver anniversary with a brand new app.
The new KCAA app is now available on your smart device, cell phone, in your car, or any place.
Just search KCAA on Google Play or in the Apple Store.
One touch and you can listen on your car radio, Bluetooth device, Android Auto, or Apple CarPlay.
Catch the KCAA buzz in your earbuds or on the streets.